Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me start off by saying exactly what the title is going to be fucking saying. Something to the tune of, stop pussyfooting around and bring in the Navy, Kier the traitor Starmer. Or maybe I'll go with a different title, I don't know. But you can probably guess where I'm going with this one. And of course, anybody who doesn't know, I'm basically referring to the migrant problem we have right now, where loads of illegals are crossing over in small boats. Loads of people are making the supposedly dangerous trip over the French Channel over to the UK. And more often than not, they don't even have to get all the way over across the English Channel. A lot of these illegal immigrants usually get a taxi service courtesy of the RNLI. They're not a border force, they're a taxi service, let's face it. But what we really need to start doing is bringing in the fucking Navy. We need to bring in the Navy, and we need to issue a harsh warning to these people who are crossing over as basically fortune seekers. And we need to give them one warning: turn back the boats or your boats will be sunk. I know there are going to be some NPCs who come out and say, you're inciting violence against these people, or you wish these people killed. No, I'm not. Otherwise, I would have said, get the gunboats to gun the lot of them down. No, I'm not fucking saying that. Let me be absolutely clear on that shit. But what I will say, unequivocally and indubitably, is that the boats must be sunk. I am not afraid to say that the Navy needs to put a few bullets in the boats themselves. At least then they will get the memo. If you want to send a boat after them to then rescue them from the shores, make sure you return them to either the country they came from or whichever country they tried to cross from. Because here's the thing, if you just go after the traffickers, all that's going to happen is someone else is going to replace it. But if you go out of your way to make it so these traffickers can't get any money from doing this, because people are not going to want to cross, that is by far our best bet. And if you're worried about the machine guns accidentally hitting a person, hell, don't use them then. Use fucking snipers. Get snipers on the boats and have them put their crosshairs on the fucking dinghies themselves. At least then you know it's not going to hit a person. And some of the people that are crossing over aren't even crossing over for a slice of benefits Britain. Some of these people have purely malevolent reasons for coming over. Some of these people that come over want to do us grave harm. I mean, the case in point for this would be what happened with a woman and a girl being stabbed over in, I believe it was Manchester. Woman was dead. Girl of 17 years of age, injured. And of course the person who did it, well, wouldn't you know it, another illegal. Here's the thing, people are going to look at me and think, oh, you want to kick all the foreigners out? No. My sister often came up with that shit, that basically the far right would say, oh, we just want to get rid of all the foreigners, which is extremely close-minded and ignorant. We don't mind people coming over here as long as they're willing to A, contribute to society, B, pay in taxes, and C, make sure that they respect our culture and way of life. But the sad thing is, a lot of the people that cross over do not do those three things. And I think any country would have the same fundamental beliefs as me. If you respect our values, you respect our country, and you're coming here to contribute, we'll have you. But if you're not, fuck off, bluntly speaking. But what we need to do is we need to send a strong message to anybody who crosses over illegally. First and foremost, as I said, we need to bring the Navy in. Bring in the Navy and start getting tough with these people. Warn them once, turn back the boats or we will sink the boats. And if they don't, put some bullets in them. If all else fails, get a sniper to put a bullet in the boats. Then they can't come back. And if on the off chance some people do come along, we need to go on a no passport, no entry papers, no entry policy. But of course, they're all going to chuck their passports and what have you into the river, into the ocean, into whatever. And the only reason people would want to do that is potentially hide a criminal past. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because, say it with me, it doesn't suit the narrative. If we had access to their passports or their entry papers and we found out about their criminal past, do you think we'd want them? Do you really think we'd want these fuckers in our country? No, we wouldn't. Now, that is not for me to say that every person that comes over is a criminal, but what I am saying is that a lot of the people who are coming over the channel are crossing into our country illegally. Therefore, they have no legal or human right to be here. And as soon as we've established that they have come over to this country illegally, the first thing we need to do is render all of their human rights forfeit. Because more often than not, what ends up happening is a lot of the illegals that come over here will then cite Article 8 of the Human Rights Act, which in layman's terms is the right to a family and private life, which they already broke the law, and bearing in mind they are already having a massive strain on our society, our culture, our beliefs, our economy, our NHS and our housing, they've already shown a great deal of contempt towards our human rights. So it stands to reason we shouldn't give a fuck about their human rights. It's much like when I've said it about the people who go around murdering people. Do you think they consider the murdered victims human rights? Stands to reason why we have no respect for them either. Well, when you have people like Kier the traitor Starmer in power, who are going to do everything they can to protect the illegals and the Islamic community, it's difficult to get shit done. But like I said, what we need to do is we need to make sure that these illegal immigrants coming over have their human rights made forfeit. They have no legal or human right to be here. None of them. And quite frankly, we need to take out the trash, metaphorically speaking. Take out the trash, place it back where it came from. Because they are not human beings coming over to integrate with society. A lot of them are coming over to subjugate our society or to be a parasite to our resources. One or the other. And like I said before, this is not me against all foreigners. This is me against all illegal immigration. If people want to come over here legally, that's fine. They want to come over legally, contribute to our society, respect our way of life, and pay in taxes. I have no problem with these people. The same rationale that most of the British public, in fact, most countries, would be able to respect. But what happens when these people have no respect? Well, we're not going to roll out the red carpet for these fuckers. The establishment might. The border force might, but we fucking won't. Why else have you seen riots all across the country? Why is it we've even seen people going out of their way to set hotels full of migrants on fire? I'll tell you why. It's because we don't want them. Our government is protecting the enemy rather than protecting the inhabitants of Britain, which is his first civic duty. Protect the realm and protect his inhabitants. But Kier the traitor Starmer is more interested in holding up the portcullis and letting the enemies come in. He might as well turn into Angela Merkel at this point and say, as many people can come, can come. That was a disastrous move by Angela Merkel. Look what happened to Europe. A classic fuck around, find out scenario. And here we have Kier the traitor Starmer and a whole load of Tory governments behind him who have basically said we can't be fucked to deal with the illegal immigrant crisis. Because let's face it, the vast majority of these people are not legal, they are not refugees, they are not asylum seekers, they're illegal immigrants. And we need to start calling it as such. Kier the traitor Starmer needs to stop pussyfooting around and actually do something. He needs to get tough on these people. But I suspect he won't. I suspect Kier the traitor Starmer will continue to open the gates and let these fuckers come in. Yeah, I'm swearing a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm passionate about this stuff. And as I've said many times before, I'm not going to mince my words. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to say it exactly how it is. And I don't give a fuck whose feelings I hurt. Now, if the proportionate figures are true, because I even looked this up just before I went, apparently there's already been at least 20,000 people that we're being told of that have come over by boats. It's give or take maybe like 500 people. But generally speaking, the number is around 20,000. And that's from the 1st of January up to the 19th of August. Just as a disclaimer. And don't just take my word for it. I believe this is what The Independent put out. Just like The Independent had put out that Tommy Robinson is getting like 174 million hits. Which begs the question, why is the man so popular? And I'll tell you why. It's because he's fighting the establishment. Which is something, of course, the mainstream media do not want to tell you. But back to the point of the illegal immigrant crisis. It is an invasion. Call it what it is. It is an invasion of foreign aliens who most of them, if not all of them, have no legal or human right to be here, that want to do us significant harm, that wants to destroy our society, that Kier the traitor Starmer is bringing in a divide and conquer approach to have radical Islam take over. Yet the media want to portray us British patriots and concerned parents as far-right racists. And Hoodlum is definitely one of them. Anyway, they want to portray us as far-right racists. I think the real racists here are the people in the establishment who clearly are anti-white British, as well as the rent-a-mob NPCs in the Stand Up to Racism movement, the Socialist Worker Party, just to name a couple. Those kinds of people are the real people who are the racists who are inciting hatred, not us. Thank you. But it's all part of the projection, isn't it? That's the trouble with the left wing. So close-minded and so ignorant, they can't even see beyond their little echo chambers and their fucking utopian bubbles. And like I said before, if we had a proportional representation as far as politics are concerned, as I said in one of my other videos, and I'll say here again, Kier the traitor Starmer would be sweating his tiny little bollocks off because he'd be like, oh shit, there's 70 MPs in here who can all challenge my views and challenge my stance on immigration. But it's because we have a first past the post rather than political representation, we only have 5 MPs from the Reform Party rather than 75 or so, which is what should be in there as part of political representation. How long do you think Kier the traitor Starmer would last if we had 70 MPs in power? Something tells me he probably wouldn't see it to September, quite frankly. He'd be lucky if he's even made it half of those fucking days. But then we all know what Kier the traitor Starmer is trying to do to the country. He's trying to sink it. He's trying to destroy it. He's trying to make it so Islam basically takes over and he can replace us, the working class, with cheap labour. He is trying to replace us, the indigenous British people, because we're all apparently far-right racists and football hooligans and thugs and lockdown protesters and all that shit. The usual dog-whistling crap that comes out of the left wing. But take a look at what happened in Australia. Australia was having the same migrant crisis that went on back in the 2010s or the 2000s or whenever it occurred. They had those migrant boats coming along, but then they said, if you come via this route, you will not be welcomed, and they turned the boats back. Look what happened. The boats stopped coming to Australia. If we approach this in the same way the Aussies did, we would have had this problem solved back in the 2010s easily. But unfortunately, our government are too spineless to actually take action as far as illegal immigration is concerned. They would rather let in all these people because, quite frankly, they have no balls whatsoever, whether up here or down there, or in my case, both. That is the trouble with these people. They would rather take the easy way out, ignore the problems, ignore what's really wrong with the country, ignore the hard route to a solid solution. In this case, they don't want to stop the boats because it's part of their agenda. It's a sad state of affairs, though, when we have people who are potentially going to lose out on their winter fuel saving payment, the elderly, just so that these migrants can be housed in their hotels, given free housing, given free benefits, given a phone, given phone credit, and are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. As well as the point that I'll bring up, which, disclaimer, this is speculation, but there were people who were even investigating the possibility that some of these hotels are having shipments of weapons being brought to them. And if that is the case, that's a very, very scary thought. That should scare almost any indigenous person, whether they be British or not. But if you want to resolve the migrant crisis, like I said, we need to stop pussyfooting around. And we actually need to take action, firm action, against the people bringing these boats over. Sink the boats, then take the migrants back to wherever they came from, whether it's the first country they came from or whether it's the first country they landed in, because even international law, or EU law at bare minimum, states that if these guys want to really seek asylum, they would do it in the first safe country they got to. But they do not do it in the first safe country they get to. They do it in the country that most benefits them. And as I've said before, you can't really blame the migrants wholly for this situation, because they are just seeking their fortune at the end of the day. But we can blame our traitorous government, who refuses to take solid, tough, firm action against the people that are coming over here. I guarantee you, the moment we start saying you will not be welcome here if you travel by these routes, we will stop the boats, 100%. And hell, as I said, if it initially doesn't work, sink the boats with the Navy, or get a couple of snipers on the boats and sink the boats that way. At least then you're not going to be held responsible for killing anyone. At least you're not going to be held responsible for causing the deaths of people. Send them back. If they truly care about wanting to be in a safe country, they would claim can't get the words out now. They would claim the asylum in the first safe country they get to. But a lot of the people coming over are not women and children. They are middle-aged / fighting age men from the Middle East, a lot of them, who basically want to invade our countries. That's the cold, bitter truth a lot of these politicians, these traitors, don't want to admit. Because it would imply that what they've been doing over the last 10 to 20 years has not been for good intentions. It has been purely to replace us, the indigenous people, with cheap labour. It's very, very easy for us to just look at the world and bury your head in the sand. But what is really difficult is actually growing a pair of balls, standing up on front of the world's, or on the world stage, and basically saying, you are not going to come by this route. You will not be welcomed if you try to travel this way. It is much more difficult for them to come out and basically say, you are going to claim your asylum elsewhere, because we will not welcome you if you come via an illegal route. If we had someone like Nigel Farage, or perish the thought Tommy Robinson, actually in 10 Downing Street, rather than Kier the traitor Starmer, we would have this problem fixed ages ago. But it is, of course, these career politicians who put personal gain and greed over their country. These are the people that we need to kick out of the houses of treachery. I mean Parliament. Or maybe I was right first time. We need to take out the trash in this country. The illegals, the career politicians, the scumbags who've come over here illegally already that want to do us harm, and anybody else who does not subscribe to our beliefs, our cultures, and our way of life, or at the very least respects them. You don't have to become a Christian. You don't have to be someone who endorses the whole idea of Christianity. I'm not even a bloody Christian. I'm pretty sure Jesus would already have kicked me out by now, or he probably says I'm too far gone. Anyway, I wouldn't say that these guys have to subscribe to that. What I would say, though, is they have to at least respect the rule of law. And none of them do. At least none of the illegals that have come over here, because they've crossed over illegally anyway, so they've already broken the law in the first place. And even if you can say some of these people have got good intentions, it does not change the fact they came over illegally. If they truly cared, they'd go through the legal routes, not the illegal ones. And by turning the boats back, by sinking the boats, sending these people back to where they came from, what we will do is we will target the business of all these human traffickers directly. Because if people start realizing, well, we're going to get sent back anyway, they're not going to pay the bloody traffickers any money, because they know it will be a waste of their own money, and they're not going to put their own they're not going to put the own detriment of their own lives over paying some stranger they don't know €2,000 or €2,000, whatever it is, just to get a place on the boat that's going to get sent back. They're going to be like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go through the legal route, or we're going to find another way. You will be hitting the human traffickers right where it hurts. And I'm not just talking about kicking them in the nuts, quite frankly. We will hit their business, and they won't be on their 1.2, 1.3, or however many millions of euros that they get every week or month. They will lose that money real quick if we manage to do that. And we will ultimately solve a significant problem regarding migration. But we won't see that from Kier the traitor Starmer. I think Kier the traitor Starmer is just going to double down. He's going to take the piss out of the British public. He's going to keep calling us far right for being concerned for our kids. And he is going to do everything he can to allow this migration to continue. We need to petition to the Navy to get involved and start sinking the boats, or turning them back, bare minimum. If we do that, we can easily resolve the issue. Easily. It's down to, we need people who have got a pair of balls, like I said, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to say, if you want to come via this route, you will not be welcomed. It's not hard to do. You just stand up on the stage and you categorically say, and then do, the very words that you say in your conviction that you will do. But Kier the traitor Starmer has no conviction. He U-turns on every bloody policy he's put out so far. So we need someone who is going to be able to stand up and say, we've had enough. Turn the boats back. Because at the end of the day, his duty as Prime Minister, Kier the traitor Starmer, is to protect the realm and his inhabitants. And all we've seen from both Labour and Tories, and the one instance of Liberal Democrats, or again, maybe I was right first time, is we've seen them continually overlook this issue and continually stab the British people in the back. Thank you. Got off the wrong pissing stop. I forgot to press the button the one time that someone's not on there. Anyway, they continue to stab us in the back and choose to do nothing about the migrants. This is our chance to strike. We must show them that they will not continue subverting the British people. We put these traitors in power so that they can enact the will of the British people. But more often than not, we have seen time and time again, they refuse the wishes of the British people. Well, they have got two choices. They can either start sinking the boats, or these people that are flooding into our country will sink our country. Well, it's that, or we're going to decide to take matters into our own hands, because we're sick of this complacency by our traitorous governments. We are sick to death of us being classed as second-class citizens in our own fucking country. It's time we took a stand against this. So either they start sinking the boats, or the British people are going to start doing things we'd rather not do. It's only a matter of time before one of these indigenous Brits, or even a group of indigenous Brits, decides they've had enough of it and they take the law into their own hands, which I don't want and I don't advocate for. But what options do they have when you literally take all other options from them? It's like what happened with the Just Stop Oil movements. The police were not being robust, they were not doing their duty, they were allowing domestic terrorists to fuck us around and cause the ordinary people to suffer. So we took the law into our own hands and started taking the trash off the road. And we've already seen one migrant hotel be put up in flames. And as I said, I don't condone that, but I completely understand the frustrations behind it. And let's be realistic here. It's only a matter of time before the British people do something that drastic again. All because our Labour government would rather turn their backs on the people they're supposed to protect. And if the people can't rely on their government to protect them, who are they going to turn to protect themselves? The government needs to get a handle on this. Because if they do not get a handle on this, we are going to see more instances of hotels being burned, people getting hurt and killed, and arrested and jailed. All because Kier the traitor Starmer hasn't got the balls to say 3 simple words. Turn back boats. Or sorry, it should be 4 words. Turn back the boats.